Hello there. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hi, Michał.
Good afternoon to you. Hi. Nice to see you again.
You made it. You made it from Warsaw, I can see. You're
Yes,
safely at home,
yes,
and
I
we can
made
have
it.
a non-disrupted conversation.
Hopefully, let's not put a
Yes,
jinx. Let's
yes.
not put a jinx on that. Let's
Let's
see it
not put a
happen.
jinx. Yeah.
Especially me, how we have a super important, super interesting conversation to talk about. What would be the general symptoms of a crisis as and when it starts emerging? How do you assess it? When do you see the first signs? Imagine you're a psychology doctor in any organization.
Well, the first thing is we have to answer the question: who is demotivated, who is burned out, and who is losing the appetite for DNI. So there will be different symptoms for the whole organization, for the employees and the teams. There will be different symptoms for the managers, and definitely different symptoms for DNI experts and specialists who actually work on these projects. But I would say that it all starts with believing in what is happening around the DNI and believing if the DNI as part of the, for example, strategy is as valuable as any other pillar that actually builds the company's agenda and mission. So, in terms of employees, I would say that losing the motivation to go to webinars, workshops, especially if we have ERGs and ambassadors, as it was mentioned in the previous panel, we can say that well, if they are not engaging anymore, they don't want to do projects, for example, that is a sign that something is not going right. I mean, if they give their time and their motivation and their passion to create something in the name of the employees of the organization, and then they don't come back, they don't want to do this anymore, something may happen there, and this will be definitely a symptom. For the leaders, of course, when they start treating DNI as another mandatory HR blah blah that needs to be addressed, and they don't understand actually how it can be impactful for their teams. And definitely, the worst thing happens when the DNI experts are burned out. They lose the motivation to work. Many of us actually do this because of our passion to the topic. That's actually no secret. So, well, it's not a good thing to have someone taking care of such important matter for the people losing their beliefs in that this will work. So, yeah, different symptoms for different groups, I would say.
Fair enough. And I know it's a complex topic and we can always approach it with it depends on a variety of context situation, but I'm sure there would be some symptoms that would help aspiring, passionate managers recognize the risk before it becomes serious. Can you help us out here, Michał? What would they be in your experience with all those different contexts possible? The typical things to look out for, what would they be? When you think about burnout, demotivation, because of course the core activities of your work are one thing and the DNI aspect of it is another, and they sometimes overlap.
Yeah. Mhm. I would say that for the teams, definitely when the word diversity is appearing somewhere, and you can see that people don't want to engage in the conversation. They don't even share their thoughts on the topic. That means that they are maybe scared of saying something because they feel demotivated. They don't want to be involved with that conversation, and we should involve everyone in the conversation about DNI. So, for example, if there's a meeting and the manager is mentioning that please remember to do the DNI training or DNI assessment, or they are reviewing the pulse checks of the organization, they are saying, okay, we are viewing diversity as this and this. There's a positive perspective. Let's talk about it. Why do you think this is a positive thing in our company? And there's like no response. There's people who don't want to actually say anything because they don't understand if they can say anything about diversity, because they don't want to be involved, as they don't feel motivated to be part of it.
Michał, in my experience, I've gone through what you call a classic burnout. I worked in the corporate sector for 6 years, and I would say that if I were to look at it from an analytical perspective, I would say the burnout appears when there is a discrepancy between what you see on paper in any given company, organization, in the glossy reports, editorial CEO statements, and the actual reality. So fundamentally, burnout starts with the level of truth in your organization, the level of authenticity, the outside communication, external communication, and what you're experiencing inside. Do you think it's an important factor, or it's really person-to-person specific?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned it, because that was something that also I had in my mind, that when you see, like in this ESG reports and all paper and all those awards and recognitions on the market, and you think, okay, my company is actually doing something good for the D&I, but you come to your work and your manager or your colleagues from the team, they are not very inclusive. They do something that actually disrupts this feeling of belonging and being yourself. Well, there it is. I mean, this is the point where you don't want to think that, okay, let's do something more, let's do something fun for the topic. This is a good value added. There's no employee buy-in when you see managers, especially role models, people who are supposed to be role models, actually not living with the values that they should promote, and they are, saying it on paper.
So fundamentally, I would say motivation is absolutely key, because if you have an employee who simply has so much on their plate, everyday responsibilities, which obviously create a lot of psychological pressure. They may be having extra pressures at home, non-related to work. And then their deep thinking would be, I'm drowning here. What are you talking about? I barely have the time to survive through my daily schedule. And then there are these issues that sound to me pretty abstract in many instances, or very, very, what they see as niche, if you like. And it's kind of difficult for them to be genuinely passionate about it, even if deep underneath, they really do not rebel. They agree with the logical fundamentals of DEI, right?
Absolutely. So I'm again, I'm glad that you said that, because the last sentence
Oh,
was actually, we are not saying about the crisis, right? We are saying that people believe in this stuff in most cases, but they don't have time, as it was mentioned before, or this is not a priority for them to engage in such conversations. But they agree with it. They believe that this is important. But as you said, I have too much on my plate. I'm drowning here, and I don't want to be involved in another thing that takes my time. So
Michal,
I think it's also, yeah.
Michal, suppose you already have a couple of those symptoms in those organizations. Where do you take it from there? What would be your first steps? You already see a couple of those symptoms. Depending on situations, there can be a great variety of symptoms. So how do you go about rectifying the situation? First steps, what do you do?
Let's do retrospective review, I would say. So let's check how we started, where we are right now, what we did actually that brought more people, what was fun for the people, and I mean, by fun I mean what was interesting, why they came, why they listened, why they engaged in the DNI activities, and let's check. Maybe it was new for them. Maybe this kind of topic was important for them. Maybe actually the level of people engaged actually dropped because we did too much of the same activities, or too much of the stuff that are very basic. And we actually know right now that mandatory training is not enough. So let's see where we made this mistake, right? Or maybe this is not a mistake. Maybe this is a normal phase, because I wanted to emphasize that actually we got to a place where DNI is built into organizations. It's not a trend anymore in the eyes of the managers or role models, or even people who don't really understand it. It's like, I would say, a compliance thing right now. I'm saying compliance because this is something that everyone knows that there is in the organization. There's the training, right? And you know that you have to be compliant. You know that you have to be right with the law and the the
Right.
values.
So the outside pressure, so
Maybe
to say.
maybe we got there, and maybe actually it's a good thing that we are here, and we can get even in a better place. But this is a situation where actually DNI is built into the company, so maybe the level of engagement actually dropped a bit, because we reached the very important step in our journey, and let's make another one with the review, with planning something more.
So, in conclusion, if you were to foster a culture that prevents DNI burnout, what would be your three do's and three don'ts?
Well, as it was said already, if you are thinking about DNI as part of your strategy, and you actually have diversity and inclusion teams or specialists or ERGs that are taking care of this message, believe in them, give them the budget, give them the resources, give them time. if it is your strategy, so it is as important as anything else that has the budget, has the resources, has the time, has the teams. So this is the first do. The second one would be talk about diversity of diversity. So different aspects of the diversity. Do not focus on one aspect. For example, gender equality. It is important, but you have to remember that men and women and people of all genders are also in different social groups, and the engagement can be built there because we all are something. We all somehow belong into the diversity and inclusion conversation. And the last do, I mean, there's so many good examples, but definitely managers leading by example. I mean, this is the one. So train the managers, talk to them, start with them, and they will actually pass the message along.
So, Michał, interestingly, you brought the subject of leaders just now when we are receiving a question from the audience about leaders specifically. Again, recognizing their impact, their value, and role modeling. The question is how to, if you could address that, how to invite, not convince, leaders to allocate their time and energy to participate in this conversation or those conversations. So let's say straightforward, boring and theoretical previous workshop, and how to make the topic important. Let's be realistic, majority is not part of the community. So how to engage leaders, how to make this conversation or this tactic authentic?
Couple of things. As it was already said, personal stories and actually reminding people that you also belong in the diversity conversation, because maybe you are in the majority, but you can also experience something that is really important for you because you have also your needs. So actually in mBank we had quite a good engagement. So that's actually funny that I'm saying about that, because I can say that okay, I'm not in this this position to view it personally on everyday basis. But what I remember that both the managers and was very nice for the leaders to have was using the diversity as a integration methods. So talking about diversity during all the workshops and all the offsites, but it was planned normally in the agenda, not that they were brought together online, for example, for a special webinar that is happening because we are introducing the policy. No, it was, I mean, step by step, some workshops, some focus groups. When there was happening something with, when we had some thematic conference, for example, customer experience, there was about inclusive design, right? So the diversity is everywhere. So actually show them that it is important for the teams and for the the company, but don't think that it's enough to do one specific training about the whole aspect of diversity. No, it's like coming together with different sides of the story.
And we have one final question, even though we're behind time, but a quick response to that one. What do you say to people of color who express they are tired of talking about DEI at work because nothing is changing?
Well, I'm not the person actually to say the best advice here, because I would say that this is another topic that needs another panel.
Exactly.
But yeah, we are tired sometimes when we are in the minority, and we constantly need to remind people that, for example, we've been discriminated, or there's the systematic discrimination, and this is even worse because one person won't change the world. But yeah, engage in the conversation. I mean, keep going forward, because this is a evolution, not a revolution, and hopefully we'll get there.
So we've touched on so many aspects, the leadership aspects, the motivational aspect. It reminds me again, over the years, I've worked with a number of CEOs and management boards about their public speaking issues. And the funny thing, the common denominator about that world is the more you achieve in life, the more exposed your leadership role. Ironically, the bigger the chance that there are things you don't see about yourselves and the image you project on other people. And the reason it's not only fun, but especially interesting to work with these people is because they have a huge influence on the quality of everyday life and the authenticity of the work experience that we all have in our everyday. Michał, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we haven't
Have a good
tired you during this segment.
No.
It was a tiring
No.
topic, but thank you.
It's a really nice challenge.
Super fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.